And the screen is clear, right? We still got all 4 markets. Okay, so let's get started. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing a trade review of CL for the 19th of March. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. The idea is that I'm sharing my trade plan with you in hopes that you'll get better. And also the trade review obviously does me a lot of good because I want to get better. So the focus today is on CL instead of NQ and ES. So let's set up context. First of all, when we came in this morning, and guys in the room, if you have any questions, just shoot them to me while I'm doing this. I'll be happy to address them. So, so the first thing coming into the context on the day, buyers are in complete control, right? If we look at CL, ES, and Q, we've been one-timing to the upside. Here's the CL profile coming in on the day. Just jump that in. Okay, so let's just start with the basics and go from there. Number one, when we're looking for a roll down in the market, or we're looking for a reversal in trend, or what are we looking for when we start that very basic process? So we're going off the day time frame, right? So number one, right? What we're looking for is to trade below prior day's low. We don't have to close below prior day's low. We don't have to melt. All it has to do is one tick below prior day's low. We've only done that once. That was on the 15th, right? And you see we recovered, and then we closed back into the blue area, which is value. And we were unable to sustain below the prior day's low. So we stopped the one-timing. All this means is that we're looking for a potential change in character, not that we are looking for a necessarily a reversal or a meltdown. And if you've been trading for any length of time, it's rare. Once we start trending that the market just tops on a single day, stops and reverses. Usually it's a process to grab a top, right? So coming down to the day, right, we know longs are probably buyers are in control. So how do we adjust that, particularly if we're short? Number one, drag your stops down. If the shorts are what are setting up, expect responsive buyers, which we've been getting every single day at about 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning, and they've been driving up. And today's no exception, right? You can see they were a little bit late on it because we got news in the middle of the day, but they really just been making a push into London close and pit close. Not London close, but pit close at 11:30, right? Got some water real quick. For those that are watching, it'll take more than 8 minutes, just FYI. And then, so let me change this real quick. Oh, and by the way, for those who've been trying to reach me, my Trader Tough email has been hijacked. You can reach me at tradeandperform@gmail.com, TRADENPERFORM. It's also in the description of this video if you are trying to reach me. There's a couple of conversations I've lost because of it. I've been unable to resolve the hacking issue, and I'm working on it. So any emails that come from there, assume they're hacked, and so on and so forth. So that's the best way to reach me, or through StockTwits or Twitter, right? So we've resumed the one timing to the upside, right? Number two, what are we looking for? On days where we really roll down, right? You just want a quick reference, right? So what do the down days look like where they really extend? Well, first of all, we're usually below the prior day's low at some point if we have an outright gap down, right? Secondly, we have an inability to close back into the range, right? And also often on the first down day, it's one timing to the downside, right? When we start, and if we open the day within range and we pushed up, we're often behind the 62 retrace of the initial push up. Those are all small things that mark off our buyers are in control, our sellers are in control, and give us a quick reference, right? So then we go to the chart itself, right? So if we drag this down and we look at what the levels were for today, which I can hunt down here real quick. So this is the 5-minute chart, right? So again, what I'm trying to do is stack high time frame to tiny time frame to give you my trade setup, right? Because what I'm specifically trying to do is get a very specific point of entry and exit, right? So that I can trade, so I can make the trade properly without getting smoked, and I have a good chance of getting a scale. That's the entire objective. Be able to drag the stop down and or leave the stop as is and pay for that stop, right? So long story short, when we came in this morning, right off the open, so this is only covering the U.S. session, right, not Europe. We opened up above prior day's high, right? First attempt back in was a trap. They pushed back up. So this is just telling the story, right? We pushed down into support, right? So if we open that up, the yellow zone first time in is the support, Did it work? Yeah, it did. Look, we found responsive buyers right there, and they pushed out, right? And then if you recall when I said here, my ultimate target, although I didn't get it this morning, was this to the downside, right? We got the counter rotation first. And what I was hoping for when I was short, which I'll set it up in a minute, is I was hoping for this backside test that would then extend down here. Buyers are in control. It didn't happen. I ended up getting my trailer tagged out, but this was my ultimate goal. And that was worth it from a trailing perspective to let the trade work, right? So overall, did support resistance work is the other question. Yes, we know that when we came to the yellow zones, we got responsive buys. It acted as resistance on the backside and rolled back down. And eventually, granted, it needed a little bit of help from some type of news regarding China, but we made it into support. When we got into support, CL is done. If you pull this chart up, what it's done every single day, which is every single push down, has resulted in a push back up in the afternoon since the 13th of March. And really prior to that, almost every day. Working for the short in this has been the long into the pit session close at 1:30 Central Time has been the harder trade, and certainly something I'm not pushing for right now, right? Until we do get a change in character. Okay, so next, we clearly, right, today, we can actually, that's the current swing low. This was prior day's low, prior day's high. We still haven't been able to pierce below prior day's low, and that's the other thing that would moderate you from getting overly bearish, because usually roll downs don't occur until we're underneath the prior day's low. So now let's go. So we've taken two really big pieces of information, right? How do you stack that all together? Well, first of all, you know where you have potential trade location, right? So prior day's high is kind of what we call a retail trade location. Everyone who's read any book about trading knows about it. These are my support resistance areas. They tend to work pretty well, right? And then this would be the other local trading area where you would simply expect a response on first touch if there's not a lot of velocity in one direction or another. For guys in the room, by the way, on NQ, we're setting up with a potential 3 up, 3 down, and you have a fractal up, fractal down, which could set up a short squeeze towards the end of the day. We're in the last hour, so watch for above 73.96. Sets up the push back to the upside, just FYI. Okay, so that's a close above with a point of control above, by the way, right? And of course, the inverse is true too. A close below 73.89.75 with a point of control underneath opens this up for potential roll to the downside. Again, the shorts have had no power, and it would be a welcome to get the roll to the downside in NQ. So let's go to the next phase, or part 2 of that phase, right? So now we go in and look. We know where our levels are. Right? Any questions to this point, guys? This is all pretty basic. We cover it every day, right? We're good? Pause for a second. Everyone looks good. Okay, so let's go to part B of this setup. So here's NQ. So remember, I don't trade the first half hour for better or for worse. But if I did trade the first half hour, right, what are the things that we're looking for in here? So the best setup in the book is that we get a fractal up, fractal down for those who are new to my trading style. Here, let me erase all this. Get into today's date. There we go. So I'm trading NQ for the, NQ. I want CL. I knew there was a problem here. And here we go. There we go. And let's still erase all lines, make sure we just have the key areas. Okay. So the best setup, right, that we're looking for every day is fractal up, fractal down, accompanied by a 3 up or 3 down. This is the 24-hour chart, by the way. It actually starts London open to US session. It excludes Asia. Okay. So coming into where we got to 8 o'clock. So this is US pit open. I'll put a big line on it so everyone can see it. That's essentially US pit open. I don't trade the first half hour. Okay, there we go. So let's get to 9 o'clock. Here is 9 a.m. This is where I'm interested in beginning my trading day. Okay, and usually there's plenty of opportunity. So the first thing that you'll see is we had an interesting setup here. We're trading at 59.40, right? And you can see that we had 3 down, right? So the first thing that we know, so I'm just going to go through the day through the setups, right? You know that you have a support area at 59.36 to 59.30, right? And what the constant balance is for us. We know where the support is, right? But we also know that the fractals and the 3 up, 3 down set us up really well. So what you're looking for in balancing is what's the odds that we can actually roll lower. So that's a little, slightly more challenging in this environment because we know that responsive buyers are strong in the market. So here was our first setup, right? Potential setup. And I don't remember where I was. I know I was short this morning, but I don't remember where my short came from. I will log in a moment and tell you. But I know it was from somewhere up in this neighborhood, right? And I was betting on basically that we would break lower and roll down. So I'm pretty sure I was short somewhere near that location, right? So we get 3 down. What's the first thing that I know about the when I get the delta wave that's 3 down? I'm looking for a close above. That would be this location here, right here. We never get a close above with the point of control above, right? The market just simply chops there. And so what's my next option on this trade, right? And it was a little bit tricky. If you look, right, we got 3 down, unable to get above prior day's high. There's a support level right underneath. And so this bar right here ended up being my trigger. So how do you manage that, right? That's a little bit tricky. Well, what you have to look at is what do you think the odds are that will roll down? Now, I thought because we had traded above prior day's high, we had slipped back in underneath, I thought we had a decent chance of a roll back down to the downside. That 59.29 would have been your first entry, right? And then if you look, you have 2 ways to measure the second half of that entry. Oh, sorry, 59.43 was short entry, 9:08 my time. Got it. So I'm right in the exact area. Okay, so if you look, this was I was using this right here. Got it. Thank you, Randy. I didn't see that. The point of control, see how if we draw a line underneath this, I'll do it right here. Okay, this is the first bar that closes underneath our wave right here, right? That's our entry. And then what are we looking for? We know that if we get, okay, so the advantage of the 3 down, right, and closing underneath that 3 down is, you know, if you close above it, the trade's pretty much busted. So the stop has to be behind here, right? And I believe the stop was 20 ticks. It was either 53 or 63, but that would have forced the market to close behind this fractal right here, which is one of the algos that trigger us, right? So entry, and then what are we hoping for? Out of that, we were hoping for a half back, which I believe was right on that 59.54 by the time we dragged it down, which would have been right here. I see what happened. So initially, we wanted 59.53 or 59.54. We extended it a little bit lower. I didn't want to front run this because I thought there was a good chance we would tag that prior day's high at 59.54. I had a limit sitting at 53 or 54, never got filled for the second part of that trade, right? And then we rolled down. So my entry, and again, thanks, Randy, for updating me, 59.43, and I'm going to target 10 down, which is 59.33. This makes sense for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's in the support zone, right? So I know I expect responsive buyers there, A. Number 2, it's 10 ticks, and it gets the majority of my risk off on this trade. It cuts whatever I have on the books down to half size, and if I do end up getting stopped, the loss is minimal, right? This is smart trading. And then what am I ultimately targeting down was this 59.04, which would have been 2 ticks in front of this support resistance zone, right? And I just missed it by 2 ticks, I think, right? So I get filled. I have half off. I'm not going to go through the sequence, but I did type in, let me go up here. I did pipe in to the room, right, where I was moving the stops. So at 9:50, I moved the stop to break even, right? And you can see it was way back here. Short CL 59.43, 59.62 stop, adding 59.54, never got it. First scale 59.33, right? And then the idea was to be able to trail it down, and I just never got low enough to really make, I just didn't hit my target. That's all there is to it before the trailer got stopped, and I eventually moved that trailer down, right? So filled, right? Pressure's off. I can just see that the trade works. But the other thing that I'm looking for here that's pretty important, see how I ended up with getting, when we came back through here, I was underneath both a 3 down and a 3 up, right? So I knew I had a pretty good chance of getting that roll to the downside. And so these green lines are telling me simply when the 3 up, 3 down wave appears. It's important to me, right? And you will notice in both circumstances, right, that actually when we scaled here, it actually triggered a second short by getting underneath this wave right here, as indicate. Well, I didn't do it very well. That wave right there, and that purple line indicated that we got 3 up, and we now closed underneath. And so that created another advantage for me, right? Because I knew if I got to close behind this bar right here, that if I close behind that 59.50, that I wanted to be out of the trade anyways. I didn't move the stop, but I would have manually stopped it out if we closed with a point of control above. What I want y'all all to notice, right, is look how much detail we're going through and how we're weighing and balancing, where we know there's support, we know there's likely to get a response, but then we're weighting things intraday, the most recent information, to give us an added edge to figure out which way this market wants to roll, right? So stay with me. By the way, you have 3 down, and again, a close above on NQ. Guys, I'm going to show you all this real quick so everyone in the room is watching, so I'm going to pull this up. A close with a point of control above 73.96. Wherever that bar closes, that's your entry. This is your stop on that setup. You want a few ticks underneath that 73.88. And then, so this is going to have to trigger around 73.98. You're going to have a 10 to 12 point stop initially. And then you're going to add, so let's say that bar closes 7,400. You're going to add on the 50-60 back, the stop underneath. My only warning is it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So trade at your own risk. I know they've been pushing up every day, and this would be a great day to squeeze the last of the buyers out right in front of the Fed. Everyone's going to expect something positive out of the Fed, is my general read. Heck, everyone expects everything to be positive at this point, right? So I would think a close above, and then you also have a fractal down and a fractal up, right? And this is a great example where we know at the end of the day roll downs have been difficult. I'd want to clear this fractal before I even considered a short, and I'm pretty much allergic to shorts at the end of the day right now, unless we are way, way, way extended up. So that's the setup for anyone still trading. If we move along, right, so let's get back to CL. So I know I have a good chance of rolling down, and I know if it closes above here, my trade's busted. So I can just let my trailer work. We have another fractal down, fractal up. That turns this bar right here into a continuation trade, right? We're pushing down, and then you'll notice, look at the purple line that develops there. It tells me I've got 3 up, right, which is a shot across the bow. Now, this is a great example of whether you've got to decide which side you want to lean on, right? And it was interesting. I stopped my trade out here because we closed above this point. Actually, I think it was just a hair late, but I closed at 59.32. That was my only trading error of the day in terms of process, right? So if you look at this, right, this 3 down, this was a close above, right? I'm going to go with this right here. Here, I'll draw the line out just to make sure I'm correct. Yeah, I should have covered that trade at 59.28. It was only 4 more pennies, and like I said, I already got paid, but it still was off the process, right? And then I'm just simply looking for my next setup from there. And then the question becomes is, did I get a next setup for that push down, right? So there's 2 issues with this. We had a shot, right? I had a shot at getting in 59.02, and this is a place where a lot of people get confused, right? You get to 3 up and you get all bummed out. Look, if you take 100 of these trades, right, a portion of them are going to stop out prematurely before they get to target. A portion of them are going to run right to target. The whole point is that you're getting very precise location and you're allowing it to stretch in your direction. That's all we're trying to accomplish, right? That's all we're trying to accomplish on the trade. And then what I'm trying to do is, since I know the market from a bigger perspective generally likes to travel from anomaly to anomaly, right? That's essentially what the yellow lines are there and the white areas. I know that I want to stay focused on, can I stretch my trades out, even if over the past week it's a little bit difficult. In bigger picture terms, it allows us to stretch, right? And it allows me to get paid big when I hit it correctly, right? So if you look, trade stopped out, right? Well, then you'll go, well, it just pushed right into resistance and it rejected. So I want to talk about this for a second because it always causes people dilemma. When you are day trading, you have to decide on a place to draw the line. And there's no easy way to do it. If you learn enough about the market, there's constantly going to be conflicts. So for what held the most weight for me was that 3 across right there, and closing above it held more weight for me on closing the position than trying to press to get that 59.02, right? And then if you look as we scroll across, was there any other place where I could have entered that trade? So as you watch, as we come along here, you'll see that we got 3 up over here, right? You'll see that we closed above right here. Again, that resistance held. That 29.36 became pretty important, right? As you're looking, you'll also see that we got this shot across the bow, right? 3 down, right? And I know if I close on either side of that 3 down, I'm likely to push in either direction. Again, I know I have resistance here. So there's still no trade setup. But as I pull across, right, You see when I got that 3 down, that this is the bottom of that 3 down, right? Again, trying to look for very specific setups, right? So how we closed underneath there, and now I know this is resistance right into 1107. So if I'm looking for the trade down into 5902, come and drag this from here to here. And now I have two choices, right? I can either short this 59.16 or 59.15 against 59, essentially 45. That's a big stop, right? No one really wants to short 59.15 against 59.35. But if you look how you could have improved that trade, really your stop could have been right behind this 3 up over here. So you could have dragged the stop down to 59.35, right? And you could have used the 50.60 back, right? It did not get violated. And you could have used your 59.28, 59.32 location for entry. Stop, right? So now you're at 59.27, 59.28, 29 location. Stop a dime above, because if you got a dime higher, you're going to get your point of control behind this fractal off to the left, right? And then you will see test, test, right? You get another 3 down right over here that you never got above. And then finally, news comes out. And notice it pushes right into support, right? And if you look to the right, if you push along a little bit underneath, you never get the 3 down. But it actually, and this is a great example, you had fractal down, fractal up, and you just simply had to be aware that 59.98, that we're in balance, and that we've been pushing up almost every single day into pit session close, and everybody can see it, right? If you go back and look, you're like, there's just no sellers. So as soon as we get above this fractal, shoots right back up, and we were really just in a balanced day from that point forward. And there wasn't much more to say about that. They pushed right into the close, and that made perfect sense to me. That's how CL broke down. But if you were selective, right, you had 10, 20, and 30 cents available to you on that trade in terms of trailers, be able to bring your risk down. And I thought our original entry back over here, right? And there was one other way to handle it. You could have simply said, if you left your original stop back here, you originally would have ended up with a 59.44 for a 59 or 59.04 rotation lower if you wanted to leave your original stop. And that's important. I want to talk about it for just a second. Okay. If you look at the chart, if you come back over here and you go, Simon, I really think it's bearish and I'm going to push lower, what you have to do is simply ignore all your other. If you get good location, like we had up here, and you simply said, I know, or I have a very strong feeling, or my larger time frames tell me it's going to push lower, ride that trade. That's all I have to say is leave your stop as is and let it go. Now, if you've been in the room for any amount of time with me, you've seen me kill it on that, and you've also seen me let 30, 40, 50, 60 tick profits come all the way back against me because I failed to cover, or I just simply was so convicted on the trade to the downside that it came back and snagged me. But I will tell you this, when I get those setups where I know, hey, we could really push, right? And we were really getting a ton of them in November, December, and January, right? When we were getting those setups, it paid me huge. And this goes back to the general philosophy of how do you grow that account, right? Everyone starts off with a small account, and then they have to ratchet up size as they move along, and they get their high odds setups. Eventually, you will get enough size on if you keep executing these setups at a high rate, right? And using your key locations and dragging your stops down, you will eventually build a cushion, right? There's almost no way not to do it. The win rate's very high, right? If you do all of that, you stay on process, eventually your trailers will get so big that your account will just accelerate in size, right? And the other part of that is you will hit enough home runs where it actually does fall out of bed or runs out of control in the direction you're looking for, right? You will eventually hit enough of those trades where you will just be, you won't care. Let's put it that way. You'll be like, get my risk off and let me see if the remaining contracts, whether it's 2, 5, 10, or 20, or 100, whatever it is you're trading, right, on your trailer, you'll eventually go, I don't care. I got great entry. I've gotten paid. My worst case scenario is they tag me out break even, either whether that's net break even or true break even, and I walk away a happy man or woman because I set up the trade correctly. Okay, that is how you survive long term in this business, right? There's no other way to do it. So we started on a big time frame. We took context, right, into account while we were trading, right? I tried to press down into this location, and I ended up having to make a technical decision when I got stopped out over here, right? And normally this is a good stop, right? For whatever reason, and actually we know the reason, right? So this is right after 10:30. right after London close. And normally when you get above parallel fractals like that, you have a lot of launches to the upside. If you stayed short this setup, meaning it closed here, right, and you kept pressing this once it got behind these fractals, you lose a lot of money the majority of the time, right? So that goes down as, that doesn't go down as a, oh, I should have stayed short. Unless I was simply willing to let them stop me back out from my original entry, that was a fine place to stop that trade, right? Once it set back up and rolled back underneath, right, realize you had 3 places you could have re-entered this trade to the downside. You could have used your simply the 59.29 to 59.36 support resistance zone, which again at this point it's pretty tired, right? You could have used your close behind your last fractal up, which would have given you an entry right here. Again, that's a bit of a tough entry considering you're going to want to scale 59.04, right? And then lastly, if you're looking for a long, as it rolled down, we all knew that was news. All the markets jumped at the same time, right? So when you're coming in, close above, push, and that would have given you your last trade of the day up into resistance, right? And I think that's how you run it every day. And then the other quality that changed today, and I was talking to Bill earlier about this, but I think it's valuable to everyone. Bill asked me what made me think I could get the roll down today versus other days, and I will tell you. So this is effectively London Open at 3 a.m. See how we consolidated above? They tried to push under one time, failed to get the point of control underneath. This is the second time. This time they did get the point of control underneath. And then this is the second close underneath right here at 906. This is the second close underneath prior session's high. And we all know from looking at these setups ad nauseum, right? The second trap, right? The second trap can be very, very powerful. And that's what set up the roll and set up the profitable trade to the downside. Additionally, I pointed out when we were setting this up, if you were uber aggressive, right? You had a fractal trendline break all the way over here at 6 a.m., right? And from that, if you look from the time that that broke on this fractal trendline break, if you just draw your 50-60 back, right? Look at your 50-60 from each of these. See how we can't recover and close behind that 62 retrace all the way down? Okay, that is an indication when you start getting these swings up and down, and they never get a close, right? So I want to show you how to do that, guys, right? Because it's an easy way to kind of get a gauge when it works right. It's an easy way to get a gauge of whether you have a good chance of getting the roll down, right? So there's your first push, but there's no fractal trendline break. You can use the tighter one, but I'd use the wider one, right? You have your fractal trendline break at 724. So if you go in there and you start drawing this out, there's your break. Never gets above the 62 retrace. New low. Never gets to the 50 retrace. New low. Gets to the 50-60, unable to close behind, and so on and so forth. And really, that was all the way down. That's the other way I could have managed that trade all the way to the downside, is if you trail that all the way down all day long, you'll see we never got behind, right? We never got behind, no matter where you put this. It never got behind this 50-60. And it's a good way if you're managing a larger position, or even if you're writing a single but trying to maximize your trailer, and you have the setup from the larger time frame, and it's a good way to hit your final target. And that would have been the other way I could have improved my trade, would have been to use the 50-60 from the bigger picture and just say, if we don't close behind it, I'll leave my trailers on until I get paid, right? So that sums it up, guys. If you do the same thing, wash, rinse, repeat, stay focused on work from high time frame to tiny time frame, right? Know exactly what the computer's doing most of the work for us at this point, right? We know where the 3 up, 3 down are. We know where the fractals are showing up to kind of help us set up the trend lines and the breaks. And I'm telling you, guys I've worked with on coaching this, if they take trades repeatedly, right, they get paid. The one last thing I want to show is look at the price action yesterday, Friday, Monday. Okay. So see how tight it was through here? Like there's no counter rotation at all. Like it's just stuck, right? Now look at today's price action. That's 8:30, right? At 8:30, you get a rotation from 59.50 all the way to 59.75. If we go back and look at that same time frame from yesterday, Monday morning, okay? Roll down, 3 down, closed above, backside tested, and pushed. But look, okay, so I guess the difference here is look at by the time where we're looking to take a trade, which is at 9 a.m., right? So this is what we've had the majority of the night, all morning long. See how tight that rotation is through there? There's just there's no range, right? There's no range over here. It makes it really hard even when you get your setups to get out of your trade quickly, right? So now if you drag that over here, look at the same picture pre-market today. Okay. So look at that same 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. opening. Look how much wider the range is here. 59.84. You can visually see it bar over bar rotating up and down, right? That's a good clue that you're going to be able, once you get your setups, that you can get extensions one way or the other. And that was the quality that I was talking about, that I said, hey, this looks different to me than it did yesterday. It may be just slight, right? Maybe just an additional dime, but the dime's all I needed to get my risk off, right? So that's all I have. Let's take, before we finish up, let's take a quick look at NQ and ES going into the close here. So ES, unless it bounces, right? We're underneath value. We're into prior day's value. My guess is, based on where we're at, we're either going to respond from here, which we just did, or here, one of the two. This area down here, this 28.34 to 28.27 makes sense for a push back towards 28.48. We're going into the Fed, and there's been no sellers. If they show up today, that's great. Again, I'm not trading the last half hour, so I could care less. But this makes good sense location-wise, right? If you get the setup, which I don't have yet. I'm watching. It's not there yet. Okay. If I go look at, so CL's a no comment, and tomorrow's inventory day, so it's a shoulder shrug until we get there, right? And then we'll see how they respond. It's been straight up. It is due a nice whacking, but we're not there yet, right? So next, if we look at NQ, yeah, it's down. It's into unfair pricing from yesterday and today, right? If we compact this back in, right, you can see we haven't made it down into yesterday's volume point of control and TPO point of control. If we somehow manage another 20 points of melt in the last half hour, I imagine we're going to find responsive buyers in this area, right? The obvious location for a push back up would be this 73.97, 73.95, right? And so let's say, since CL's closed and offers us pretty much no opportunity, right? They have the rig count right after 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock today, somewhere in there, right? So if I come back over here, switching gears real quick, and I look at NQ, right? So let's play the maybe game, okay? So if I play the maybe game, what am I looking for here? So I want everyone, let's say this isn't the last hour, and it's wacky hour, right? And so what are the options to set me up? I'm underneath 73.79. Even though we're moving down, if you look inside the dome, the speed of the dome is relatively slow, right? I know that I've got my first speed bars that I've seen all day. I want to take a quick peek at the 6 range here real quick. Dun, 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 dun. Back into the original point of breakout off here to the left. Dun, 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 dun. Speed bar. I need to close above that speed bar. Okay. Got a pretty good idea. So what I want 3 up or 3 down. Like if this ends up being, here's my last shot across the bar. So I either want a shot across the bow or 3 down. Either one will do, right? And then a point of control above. So let's pretend like this ends up being a shot across the bow. Hasn't marked it off yet, but let's say it does. I want a bar, right, with the orange line to close above. That tells me the odds have switched, right? And I'm thinking in terms of odds of how the trade will work out. So I don't trade the last hour because I know my odds actually get smaller. The upside is you can catch some wild swings. The downside is you can get caught in some wild swings. I don't like that, so it's a nothing for me, right? So there, but I can use it as a teaching opportunity, right? I got a fractal down, 2 fractals down. I need a fractal pointing to the upside, preferably on a speed bar. I would like 3 down to form, right? And here's the cool thing about this whole deal as we're watching this, right? There's absolutely nothing for me to do without one of those 3 things, right? I've got certain elements I can use to trade. Like, for example, through the course of the day, I got 3 down here, right? The computer's marking it. So there's one side, there's the other, right? If I get a point of control above, so I can go back and reference it. That's my point of control above. That's my long entry. Stop below. And then it stretches, right, from what would have been a 96 to a 74.06, almost 10 points, right? Not a freaking awesome trade, but PA sucks in this particular case where we're at right now, right? Or I can look for the short. What would be my short signal? I either need a fractal down and a fractal up and get a close underneath like I did here, 50-60 back for the roll down. Or, right, my next choice is, or my best choice is to get a place where I can combine all three, fractal up, fractal down, close above, and then it launches it to the upside or to the downside, whichever case may be. In this particular case right now, so now if you look, right, what do I have? I have fractal down, fractal up. I can draw a line right here. Okay, so whether this is CL, NQ, ES, or whatever you trade, right, doesn't matter, right? I have a couple of decisions to make. First of all, do I think we can get back above 73, 79, 50? So the first decision is in this time of day. Am I willing to trade the last half hour? Yay or nay? First question, first and foremost, right? I have two potential setups. I can either wait for a close with a point of control, and I would choose this fractal over here, right, to roll to the downside. What's the problem with that short setup? Okay, well, here's the pluses and the minuses. The plus is you're underneath prior day's high, right? And if it breaks, it could sweep the range and push down to that 73.40. And that would be really cool. Problem is, if you look back, right, we pull this in, look at everyone who shorted the low, trying to get a continuation lower, anywhere on this whole chart. That's going back to the 14th. Everyone got smoked, right? They stack everyone in. I'm getting delta divergence down at the bottom. I've got no velocity to the downside. I've got a red, blue speed bar now set up side by side. I know this can be a trigger. That's part of the speed bar algos, right? A close above this fractal can be a trigger, right? And now what's the last piece that I'm waiting for? I'd like to see 3 up or 3 down, and I don't have that yet. That's the only piece I'm missing. So if I want to get long, right, what am I going to do? I'm going to most likely take the first point of control that closes above this, right? So let's say that bar closed right here just for hypothetical purposes. Half. I'm going to put another part of the order here, and I'm going to stop just underneath this fractal and hope like hell it doesn't come back. And if it does stop me, I don't care because I take that trade 100 times, right? And the best thing that could happen here is that we end up with a shot across the bow here. This ends up printing 3 up, right? So we need one more stutter step, right? And on this stutter step, right, we get a close above that 3 up, bust, we get long, and we can get long early because we're getting above that 3 up or 3 down, bust the fractal, and then where's the logical place to push back? Well, if I go all the way back on this chart, right, my swing high, was that the swing high for the day? Yep. If I get really, truly lucky heading into the Fed, right, and again, I don't trade the last half hour, so none of this is going to be my story, but this right here becomes my 315 target, right? And that is highly, highly doable, right? So now all I'm waiting for, what I would like to see is this bar turn negative so I get a 3 up, but if not, take the point of control above, right? And so there's a trick here, right, that you got to be mindful of on this setup, guys. So let's hope this bar forms, right? That would be fantastic. We got to wait till the bar closes and it starts printing a new bar, then we know we're good, right? But if this bar forms, right, what I want is so this will end up being my 3 up right here, this bar. I want this bar to close, right? And then the first bar that closes above this point, here I'll draw a line. I'm long that bar. I'm going to draw a 50-60 back to add, and I'm going to look for a push. Now, being the last half hour, the failure rate's higher, but let's see if it actually works. Okay, so we'll do it just very small. Let me load up. Just do it small size. There we go. So since we're using this as a coaching session, we might as well use it as a live coaching session, right? So I need one more tick for that bar to print. Again, I got the range bar predictor right there. I know if I print that 3250, right? So I need 3250 to print. I'll have my 3, I'll have my shot across the bow. I need a positive bar to close above, entry, reload, stop below, right? With where I have my most significant headwind is getting back above 73, 79.50. That's a coin toss. And then when I do my quick check, do I have a reasonable expectation that we can crush it back to the upside? I do. And why is that? Because I know that we're in unfair pricing for the day, and we've rejected out of this area in principle all day long. And this becomes my target at 73.91.75. Whether it hits or not, that's out of my control. All right. There you go. So that bar is printed. So now I'm completely set up, right? Assuming that my rules allow me to trade, right? So remember, this is not an entry. I need to close above this point. If my rules allow me to trade in the last half hour, I'm looking for a point of control to close above here. And, right, remember, if we close underneath here with a point of control underneath, it's actually a reverse setup. I'm not willing to short at the low, at least of the afternoon and of the day. Yeah, low of the day and the afternoon. I'm not willing to short that, even if it does roll down, right? That's a trade I'm all right passing on. Why? It's a low odds bet. Just go look at how many days we close on the low. You just get bone crushed, right? ES is pushing ES is pushing the low of the day, and prior day's high is sitting at 27.50. And remember, if this busts, right? So this did, okay, here's another good example of this, right? So again, last funny hour, guys. See how the point of control closed one tick underneath? Okay, no go. I don't want one tick closes underneath. As a matter of fact, what this ends up being quite often is a complete trap. And if you're mega super aggressive, your long's actually the close of this bar right here with a stop one tick underneath, right? So that's a very, very aggressive setup, and you need everything else to fall in place to make that work. But a lot of times you'll see one tick underneath, close back in with a speed bar, pop back up. Again, we'll see what happens with it being, it is crazy hour. So, and we're right on yesterday's value area high. So 28.4150 on ES is the target up. On NQ, I would say 91 is actually the target back up. And this is actually a decent potential for a reversal here. They tried underneath, and they actually tried underneath on a pretty decent delta push here, right? So, and now, right, so now look, we've had a bit of change in character, right? So now see how you have the fractal down, fractal up, and it's on speed bars? So we can adjust this trade now, okay? So we never got triggered long. We still know this is our last three down over here, but now we can adjust. Again, the idea would be is we're looking for long to squeeze up, not try to catch it short. The short's already occurred, right? So now I simply need the point of control back above this level right here. I need to simply get my point of control back above, and I'm going to do the same process. Entry, half, half, push, right? And then again, you'll notice they made a pretty decent push there. If they trap back in on that, shorts could get squeezed. Again, we are due for a down day, but I'm not going to bet that the last half hour is the day we get the down day. Randy, does that all make sense to you, buddy? Bill, everyone in the room? Hey, you bet. So let's see how it plays out. And notice, here's the cool thing. You were looking for the long, right? But it never actually triggered, right? And there you have, by the way, you want to keep the particular attention. Parallel fractals right there. You get above it. Push usually. Not always, but often. We've got three down now. So now we have another setup, right? If this bar forms, now we'll have three down. Our trigger will be above. It didn't form, but if we end up with three down over here, and then we'll close above this point. So we got to see if this bar forms, right? That'll be three down, entry, and stop will come right underneath. That would actually end up being pretty tight. Your entry is going to end up being around 68, 73.68. And again, if you don't trade last hour, half hour on the regular, it can be a very difficult spot to make money. And normally I don't trade. I'm profitable on the day. There's no way I'm going negative. This is for education. This is just for teaching sake alone. So, and I know that I've got a support level sitting right here at 73.59, 73.56, right? It's light blue, which means it can get traded through relatively easily. Okay. And watch me go through all this effort, and it actually ends up being a sweep at the end of the day, but I don't think that's what we'll end up getting. So there's another three down, right? So I know closing above this three down, again, sets me up. I'm going to have to use whatever the swing low ends up being here for my trigger. And then what will seal that is probably this close above for a push back in. And now that 73.79, if I could get triggered in here, would end up setting me up for a scale prior to getting to 73.79. Would end up with a 7 or 8 point scale. I can free write it into the close. So here we are into support. Remember the light blue areas, right? They're weaker and we're not taking them automatically. And the best thing that can happen, this turns out to be 3 down, and we can keep shifting our entry point lower and lower, right? And notice, even though I've been wrong about the reversal, right? I'm thinking, okay, my thought process is we're going to push back up into the close, right? These guys are really pushing down into some unfair prices, right? And we're going to find responsive buyers. And I've been looking to get long. Notice the beauty of the whole process here is I've never gotten triggered. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. I've gotten triggered short. I just think I missed the short already. It's already, short has already come and gone, right? It was really the close behind this bar, right? With a stop a little bit behind here for the roll to the downside, right? That's where the setup came from. Or, right, the close underneath here with a stop above the swing. And this is also a good point. When you have a swing high over here like this and 3 up and you triggered underneath it, where did the 3 up come from? Right here, right? And you get underneath that a second time, they trigger the opposite one, you get under a second time. That's where you can really get some pretty big pushes. Let's not confuse the idea yet. Remember, light blue, those are the weakest support areas. So see how we're getting 3 down now? If this bar prints, I need a 73.58 to print, right? So what do I want? That's the top of my 3 down is right this bar right here, right? Let's see. There we go. So now I need to close above 73, 63, 75, right? Half, push. Again, I don't know, given the time constraints, that we're actually going to get the trade, right? And here's the cool thing all the way down. Since I'm not short, ironically, since I've been pushing for the short for 3 days, right? I just haven't been able to get set up. Notice I'm not getting run over. I can't tell you how valuable this is. We're just simply not getting run over, right? We know these are weak areas. No one should be getting hit at all on this, right? And we keep creating 3 downs where we know we have potential if it sets up, right? So we're still all the way up here at 73.66. Hopefully we'll get one more push down into this area, right? And I'm looking at the chart right now. We are into, there's a giant hole in the profile here on NQ. Right here's the biggest part of that hole, and maybe that's what they're gunning for to fix. There's an anomaly right here, hole right here, and an anomaly back here. Any of this can act as valid support area for the push back up. If we close down here and don't push back in, this would be a close at extreme. A gap down tomorrow would be relatively bearish, but which of us really thinks that's going to happen, right? With the Fed on tap, right? So we'll see. They're doing a good job of driving down here and doing profit taking, and I'm totally fine with this because I haven't lost a penny all the way through this down here. We were short earlier trying to get rolls to the downside. They weren't ready to give it up, right? And so now we sit patiently, and this whole process just saved you from stop after stop after stop because it never triggered you in. And now you're still in a position where you can wait patiently and see if you can get triggered back to the long side. And now we've had another 3 down. Let's see where this is now. Same location, 63.75. Into the second, what I would consider a weak anomaly. That area can get easily traded through. Doesn't mean that it will, just means that it can, so you don't take it automatically. Again, you get above these speed bars is another potential long entry. And let's see if we can tee this off at the end of the day. Even with 2 contracts, it'd be kind of fun. I notice I don't have a fractal to the downside. I don't have 3 up or 3 down. All I would have is a speed bar, and that happens. So this is important going back to process, right? If you're following your process and you're following your underlying thought ideas, we know we can bounce out of here. This is okay support area. It's not great. It's okay, right? Let me erase this real quick. Right? It's okay. It's not horrible. It's just okay, right? So what I'm hoping for is to get one of these lines set up down here. I don't want to trigger up here, right? This is my last 3 down. I don't want to trigger at 68 because there's no way I'm using a 20-point stop on NQ. So what am I hoping for? One more press down. I get a 3 up or a 3 down in here. Fractal down would be preferable, right? And the blue speed bars, remember what I want to see. I want to see the red speed bars pressing down, not the blue speed bars. So now my fractal down. That's good, right? I need a fractal pointing to the upside, right? And I need 3 up or 3 down. And we may not get it, right? And that's totally okay, right? So there's my 3 up. If that'll print, that'll give me 3 up. And what I want to do, if that prints, is my first close above. So that's my shot across the bow. It's a little bit different, right? So I want this to actually be a negative delta, so I get 3 up over here. We'll see if it actually prints or not. Come on, push it down just a little bit, guys. Help me out. Figures it would be very difficult to get it set up while I'm trying to demonstrate it. If that'll print, I got my 3 up, 3 down, and then my entry will be on the first point of control above 73.62 if they don't just shoot it straight up. And we do have a point of control above our speed bar right here, right? So the other trade is just simply you take this long with a stop underneath. I want at least 3 up, 3 down. So let's hope this gets tagged at 73.59.50. So I have my 3 up, 3 down above my speed bars. Entry on a point of control above, half, stop, and life will be nice. But it may not want to do it. But I'm ready to go if it does. And by the way, on that same measure, ES did set up. See that? There's your 3 down right there. There's your close above. It did trigger long. See that in there? Same setup, right? Point of control above, push. Right? We just haven't gotten it on NQ, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. It printed. It was on delta divergence, but it printed. So this is my 3 up. That's actually triggering me long. So what I'm going to do is take a 63.50 if they'll give it to me, which they haven't yet. I'm limiting it at 63.50. See if I can get it. Filled 63.50. So, right, I'm going to do the same thing I do every time. First of all, my stop is going to go at, let's just call it 50 even. So I'm going to have a 13.5 point of initial risk, right? So the low is 73.51 1/4. Let's just put it there because if it gets down there, they're going to annihilate it anyways. Number one. And I understand the risk here. Why? Why do I understand the risk? Because, right, I understand the risk because I am taking it at the end of the day with 13 minutes left to go and anything goes, right? So my entry was 53.50. We're trading 57. I'm going to try and get, I'm going to try to push 7 points out of that. So I'm going to try for 70.50 as my first target out. And how does the other half of this trade work? So I don't have a fractal down or a fractal up. All I've got is three up, shot across the bow, 50-60 back. And then I'm on the watch out for not getting a short setup going the other direction, right? So I'm going to end up adding at, let's spread this out. Before it hits my scale, I'll end up adding at 73.59 for 73.51 and change stop. And I already have my limit in for the 73.70.50. Oh, I don't yet, but I will in just 1 second. I have 70.50 limit, and I'm within 2 ticks, so please hit it. Just missed. I'll write it because it's just demo, but obviously end of day, that kind of bites. I missed literally by a tick. So let's see if they come back and get me. Okay, but the whole point is, let's say this trade ends up stopping. It's only 2 cars, right? So it doesn't really matter particularly one way or the other, right? I have a choice here. I have my target up, right? I'm looking for 3 up, 3 down. I really actually don't want to close underneath these red-blue speed bars, but let's not make it overcomplicated, right? There's my, I'm still missing by a tick. No fill yet. I'll tell you when I get filled. Come on, guys. This is easy. I just need a little more love. 1 more tick. 1 more tick. Okay. I missed it 3 times. 1 more time. No fill. Come on. Okay, I'm going to lower to 70 even, see if I can get that. 70 done. Okay, so I'm scaled on half, right? So this is a perfect example. Now I can make some trading decisions. End of day, if I don't want to lose any money at all, right, I can bring my stop to break even. I've taken 6.5 points, $120 a contract, right? I no longer want my 50-60 back. I no longer want the 50-60 back. And why don't I want the 50-60 back? Because if I do, I'll be underneath this fractal, right? As a matter of fact, any close underneath this fractal at this point, I just simply want to close the trade out. So my stop remains. I might as well go ahead and pull my stop up to where I entered, because if it tags this 62, right, it's already going to get a point of control underneath here. Likely, there's scenarios where it won't, but it's very unlikely that I hit that, right? So I'll go over here. My stop was all the way down here at 51.25, and I'm going to drag it all the way up to 63.50. So my sell stop is now break even, and now I have one or two choices. Right, it's the same as CL as it is on NQ. Right, my target can be the 73.79. Right, I can see if they'll push into the close, and then I can take this. That's 73.66.75. That's where my stop sits right now at 63.50. That's where my stop is. And most likely, if I get the stop, the point of control will be underneath here, and there'll be a chance that they roll it lower. Notice again, these were light blue, right? And the reason they're light blue is because they are support resistance areas, but they can get easily traded through also. So I'm above my 3 down. I'm above my speed bar. I've got a fractal to the downside. I've closed above my last speed bar fractal pointing up. That's bullish, right? And so if I can hold above all this, right, now I've got a prayer, and that's all it is, a prayer that 63.50 might survive for a push to 79.50, and we can let the rest roll. Either way, right? Either way through this whole process, never got triggered, and I was looking long already, right? Imagine how many times I could have guessed, well, this will be my entry. Oops, stop, 10 points. Well, maybe this will be my entry. I'll put a stop underneath here. Oops, stopped. Once you let the process, right? Once you let the process be your entry, your exit, and your stop, and the 63.50 was elected, by the way, right? So once you, and the point of control closed underneath here, there's fractal up, fractal down. That's hypothetically, and again, I'm not trading this. That technically triggers you short right there with a stop right above. I have no desire to short the last 8 minutes of the market. So, and the point was well made, right? We followed process exactly step by step, right? We found good entry. We got a decent scale, right? Didn't quite make it to the target that I thought it would make it to. And I was able to get my trailers off risk-free. And, right, had this been a larger size or in the middle of the day, the way I would have managed this, right, is if I thought that was a low, the only adjustment I would have made, I would have said, okay, even though we've gotten this fractal down, I know I've got the support area right here, and I know we're on a stretch. I've got a fractal trend line break to the upside. I've got a 50-60 back. And the way I probably would have modified that if I had a bigger position in a larger scale, again, there was only 2 contracts here, is I could have either scaled 3/4 up here to pay for the stop on the last quarter, or done half-half, minimized the stop, and left the original stop back here at 51. And it would have ended up dragging that 7 points would have been added to the 63, bringing me back to a 56 average for a 51 stop, a 5-point risk on half size, which net to me would have been -2.5 if it got stopped. I'm not advocating that you do that into close or any of the things I just did into close, because I think the last half hour is hard and it can get moving really fast. But what I'm advocating is if you think that's the turn and we're going to push all the way back to the mid up here, that is the best way to manage it, because it's not unusual to get a sell signal in the hole to the short side, and you got to know to most of the time to skip that, especially when buyers are in such total and complete control. That's my 2 cents about that. Questions? Pretty much textbook. Okay, have any questions, email me, tradeandperform@gmail.com. It's in the description of this video. And if you'd like a pass to the room, email me as well. I'll be happy to extend one to you. And if you've been trying to email me, my old email, and it's been bouncing back or no response, please email me again at the what is actually the old email, and I'll be able to do so. And apologies to anyone who feels like I've ignored them. Not intentional. Trade safe, have a trade plan, have a risk management plan. And for most of you, don't trade the last hour. It's usually hard as hell and can be very frustrating when you get smoked. So that's my 2 cents. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Have a good night, guys.